Hear me? Hi. Here, I'll turn my camera on too
Hello.
really quick. Sorry
Hi.
for all the technical difficulties. I'm just like here in my room in Bali. It's been a learning
No, I'm
curve
sorry
because
as well.
my phone's here because I'm using my phone as a microphone. But I was using Spotify and that was having a ton of trouble. And then I missed 2 calls today,
Oh,
and
no.
then I was having the same issue. Here's my dog Pookie. She's going crazy. I was having.
Oh, I'm so glad there's noise. I was trying so hard to find
Oh
a room where
yeah.
there's no
No,
noise
don't
with
worry.
my kids
I
going.
have remove background noise on for this app. So yeah, long story short, I had to switch apps at the last minute. I have a top on,
Oh,
but
great.
it's been a hectic 20 minutes trying to go from Spotify to this. No worries. I appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to jump right into it. If you don't mind, I feel like more comfortable having the cameras off, so because I'm gonna end up walking around. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll start recording now. I'll have you introduce yourself to the listeners, just starting with their first and last name.
Sure. I am Tanya.
Nice to
Martin.
meet you as well. And
nice
Tanya,
to meet you.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Zimbabwe.
Now? Wow, what was it like growing up in Zimbabwe?
Yes. Still here? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Challenging. We're resilient.
Can
and
you
very
talk
hopeful
more about
people.
The challenges of growing up?
Yeah, I think in general there's been quite a significant amount of challenges in terms of, mostly governmental, but it really rolls out, I think, in terms of how it's affected all of us is mostly the economy. I think, the economy is just so unstable. So everyone always says, in Zim, you don't plan for 5 years. You plan for like tomorrow because you just never know what's going to happen, what's going to change. Although we always say there's like a 4-year cycle in Zimbabwe in terms of our politics and in terms of our economy. And that's generally runs in line with also our elections, which, brings always hope, but it's always the same result. I think it's been, a transition as kids, a lot of people coming and going. You get used to that because just a lot of people leave to go to university elsewhere. Our university here is really good. But it is not culturally diverse. So a lot of people send their kids to South Africa, or they send them to Australia or England, or now at the moment, the Netherlands is very popular, just for the pricing. As externals in England and Aussie, it's quite expensive now, whereas they find in Europe, it's a lot cheaper. So as a result, as a teenager, everyone sort of disperses after high school. The odd person might stay on, but so a lot of the time your friends and your dynamics are changing as a young person. And then you get into like our age group now where we've got young kids, and this will be stable for, you have a few people flitting in between and leaving every so often, which I'm sure is normal in most countries. But for them, I think they'll also find their year will start leaving at the end of high school as well. So you do kind of get used to a lot of movement of people, just because it is an unstable, very expensive place to live.
So
and survive.
When you're going through high school and knowing that most people will be going off in different directions, do you feel like the connections are different? Are they not as strong? Or is it kind of like we're in this together and like see you on the other side?
Yes. Definitely, there is 100% that connection with people here. I think a lot of people, when they come to Zim, they're always like, the people are so amazing, they're so nice and so open, and they're right. And I think it's because everybody is like, we're all in this together. We're all suffering in one way or another, and we all are united in the fact that, it offers an incredible lifestyle for children with amazing weather. Our weather is one of the best in the world. And so that's why we're here, and that's our motivation. And in Zimbabwe, everybody has this saying, "Oh, we'll make a plan." It's just, if something's stressful, everyone just goes, "Oh, don't worry, we'll make a plan." And so I think that's the general outcome of most people in Zim. So it's absolutely a lot more. It's a very close community.
Yeah.
Despite
and what's
knowing
the plan
that everyone
usually
will leave.
entail if something's kind of going awry?
Yeah, exactly. That's really, we make that plan on the day. It's just like whenever some new law comes out, everyone goes, "It's all right. I'm sure they'll retract it, or someone might. I'm sure something will happen. We'll make a plan. Somehow we'll find the money because there's a new tax and it's ridiculous. But everyone will make a plan. We'll find a way." And it just somehow, I think a lot of the time our businesses lead our economy. So our big businesses are the ones who kind of we rely on. They're the ones who make the plan. They work around all the rules and regulations, and they try and find a way of us surviving, of us still getting food in through the difficult channels, because we're no longer the breadbasket of the world, because our agriculture was ruined in the 2000s. So yeah, we're an import nation now, which is very sad because we have amazing agricultural land, but it's going to take so much to fix. And so many NGOs come in trying with great intention and trying to change the world, but fall, unfortunately, in hard spaces, challenges and obstacles constantly.
Happening when you were younger, like when it becoming more of an import country, and how that affected you?
Yeah. When I was younger, I was in high school when our opposition, the opposition of Zim, the MDC actually started, and it was that era was a very difficult one. We had no freedom of speech. Like I remember at school, we had a certain alarm system where when that went, because the school that I was at was in town, and town was where they loved to target and have sort of riots and that sort of thing. So they used to have like a riot alarm where we would all either have to run to what we called the dungeon, which sounds terrible, but it was just an underground place that they could lock us into, or we would climb, depending on how much time we had, we'd sort of knew that we had to climb under the desks, and the teacher would lock the door, sort of thing. So people weren't at risk, just a risk. We never had to do it. I think there was once where we ran into the dungeon because we had an alley in between our school, which was random, but there was an alley which obviously people could get through. But then after that, so they came through there, but they never intended to harm anyone. They just used it as almost a portal to get to the other side. So I think that was the point where we did have the one alarm. Otherwise, after that, they kind of got permission to have gates on that little portal. So, it was very, I remember I used to journal a lot, and I think that's what got me through a lot of it, because by that point, a lot of people were feeling insecure. The farms were getting taken over. There was a lot of violence and outside of town. So thankfully we lived in town, but you're very aware of it, and you have friends around you whose family are farmers. And yeah, it was a hard time where you were kind of praying that they didn't come into town. And it was a horrible time of fear, and lots of your friends leaving. So that, as a teenager, that was hard to grasp and handle, but it's made us resilient, and now we can travel all over the world because we have friends everywhere. There's a Zimbabwean in every country. Yeah, it is. Although we don't travel much because it's super expensive to travel from here.
Did you stay in Zimbabwe then after high school, or did you leave for university?
So no, unfortunately, my parents couldn't afford university. So we kind of looked at what was locally available. I knew that I wanted to kind of help people, and there's not much that was locally available in terms of courses, but I did hotel management at the time. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he did Ernst and Young. He did accountancy. So they offered internships then where they basically said, come and work for us and we will pay for your qualifications. So he did chartered accountancy through Ernst & Young through working for them. So we kind of stayed here, and then we spent some years here doing a bit of work afterwards. I was in marketing and he remained in accounts. And then we left for Jersey Channel Islands for 4 years. But yeah, our families were still here, his mom, his dad, my mom, my dad. So there was a big drive to come home. We came and, the intention was to go to Jersey, travel, get lots of experience. But he had a Zimbabwean passport and, to go anywhere in Europe, he needed to get a Schengen visa, which meant he had to fly from Jersey to London. So all of our money was spent because we were like, yeah, we'll go and travel. Meanwhile, obviously, we were missing home and our folks. So we're like, no, annually, we have to go home and visit our folks. And then, we just spent the whole time coming home and visiting our folks. And eventually, after 4 years of that and coming back here to get married, we were like, what is the point? We're not traveling. Yes, it's an easier lifestyle. However, our folks are here, they're getting older. And what is the point? We're not traveling. So yeah, that's when we came back here a year after we got married in 2010. We came back. 2011.
Do you have any siblings that were there as well?
So, yeah, and then we've been here since. Yeah, okay. I've got my sister, but she lives in London. So sadly, she's still in London. She left before I left. She's older than me, 2 years older than me, and she left before I left, and she loves it there. She's very torn as well between here and there, but she just comes to visit us annually because she does love London and she's a music lover. And so, yeah, it's arts and music. It's a great place to be in London.
Having to develop resilience, or like getting to develop resilience through all the different changes going on, I guess socially and politically. What have you learned about developing resilience, and what do you think helped you kind of maintain stability and motivation?
Yeah, I think what it's taught us is to always look towards the future and not to focus too much on the past, to take every day as it comes, and that you cannot... A lot and most of things are out of your control, and you can only control kind of the perception you have of those instances and those moments. So it's definitely taught us all to just calm down, take a breath, and try and see the positive side and what you can learn from everything. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Just to also be aware that nothing is permanent. And that's okay. To learn the art of detachment. A lot of the times it's quite difficult, but just to appreciate that detachment is a great way to deal with a lot of stress and anxiety in everyday life.
Do you think
in this country?
Like all of those stresses and anxieties like affect the way you visualize your future or set goals for yourself?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think also you definitely feel here we're not as worldly. We're in a little bubble, so we can protect ourselves from the news. Not that we do, but because we have dealt with so much in our past and in our present as well, it's daily struggles, that we tend to try and avoid watching the news some people can handle it, but for me, myself, I avoid watching the news because the trauma of what's going on outside in the world, I'm like, no, that's our safe haven. We always think that that's the place we can go to when things get too tough here. So it needs to be perfect. It needs to be amazing. It can't be thought of as scary and in turmoil like it has been here before. So, let them go through their stuff and we will just quietly carry on here. And hopefully by the time we need to leave or have to leave, we've got a nice little plan B that's sorted itself out.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Like most people think to think of, I guess, the world is like there to save you, and like if you ever need to escape, like you can get out of home and like go out to the rest of the world. But there is so much turmoil going on everywhere that's like, oh, like no, that was my plan B. You guys can't mess this up for me.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, exactly. Don't let us down, please.
Yeah.
We're counting. We're rooting for you all.
You met your husband in high school? So you guys are, what we call it, high school sweethearts in America. Do you call
we were in the
that?
same class.
Okay. Can you talk?
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yes, we call it high school sweetheart. Oh, sorry, you cut out. Courtney, can you hear me still? It's still recording, but I can't hear you.
My microphone shut off. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I was asking you about your relationship with your husband, which you guys were high school sweethearts. So could you give any advice about relationships and like long-term commitment from even a young age? What have you learned from being in such a long-term relationship?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because we were actually chatting about it yesterday. It's definitely made us such a strong couple. And we're so blessed because I think because from a young age, we don't have much history in terms of previous relationships. We don't have that animosity with exes. And, we had a few exes, but at such a young age, it's, like holding hands, the odd kiss, 3-week relationship, which didn't really matter. So we were really lucky. Well, I guess it's lucky in terms of that, but it was also a choice. And I think, there were many times where we thought, do we want to commit fully to this relationship? We're so young, like what are we missing out on? And something because actually before we started dating, we were best friends as well. So we were very involved in the relationships. We were, we knew each other's exes. We were friends at the time. And then we ended up becoming best friends when we were 16 and then started dating when he was 18 and I was 19 because I did a 5-year course. So we were in the same year together. That's why he's 1 year below me. But we were in the same year because I took a gap year. So, it's definitely made us resilient as a couple. And because I think the main motivation is personally, we say friendship is the most important and communication because you're such good friends and because you start as a friendship. The communication is always there and the honesty is there because you're friends. And there's no pretenses. And I think becoming friends and getting to know someone is way more important to have that companion than the passion. The passion can come later, but that honesty, that trust and that respect is so much better and built on when you form a friendship first.
Now because people, especially with dating apps and everything, people are dating and they're dating so much and they might be dating multiple people at once. And so it's hard to develop any sort of relationship with someone, let alone a friendship.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's so much choice now as well. Because of the international scope. Whereas, before you were limited to a couple of schools maybe, but now it's so open to anyone and everyone that, I don't know how people do it. It must be so overwhelming.
I think it's overwhelming to meet so many new people. and to like go through a process of courtship, like over and over potentially.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you and your husband know that
Yes.
you were going
I
to be in a
know.
relationship,
I
or
don't know how
did
they
it
do
just
it.
sort of happen naturally?
So my husband sent me, well, gave me Valentines from a young age. Well, when we started high school, he always says, "Oh, I fell in love with you the first time I saw you on the balcony," like Romeo and Juliet. No, not really. So, and whereas I was like, no, you're just my friend. It's actually really hilarious because in my journal, I was the first day of school. I said, there's this guy in my class, and he keeps staring at me. And it's like, but I think he likes me, but I don't like him. He's a geek. It's like, oh, that's so mean. And he's like, brutal, Tan. So I still to this day remind him of, and he's like, resilience. And he tells everyone, guys, you see, resilience. You just got to be committed. You got to keep going, never give up. And yeah, we became such good friends. And then, there was just one day where I started to get jealous.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's a weird feeling. He's like my best buddy. Why am I jealous of these people that he's potentially going to date, maybe? And then I thought, oh gosh. So I started looking inward and I thought, oh, maybe I do like him. But I was always like, no, if I like this guy, he's such a good guy. He's my best friend. It needs to be like, I have to commit. Like, this is a committed relation. This is someone that I would marry, not someone I want to date at the age of 17, 18. I mean, really. But I think in the end, I was like, meh, what do we have to lose other than our friendship? And yeah, so I think that's kind of when I sort of wrote him a letter because I was, nervous. And I wrote him a letter saying, I think I like you, which wasn't the most complimentary thing. I was like kind of roundabout. I think I like you because I don't like you liking other people. No like lovely complimentary. You're just gorgeous and you're such a great person. It was just like, I've analyzed myself and I think we should date. And then obviously we were like, and then we said, okay. He said, fine. Initially, he was like, no, I've waited a long time to date you, and now you're interested. I'm not doing it. So I was like, fine. And then, like, I think a month later, he was like, okay, no, I can't do it anymore. Let's date. So I said, that's fine. But we came to a rule. We were like, we're friends, and we have to break that friendship rule. We have to kiss on the first date. Otherwise, it's going to be creepy and weird, and we're just going to hold hands for the rest of our lives. So we did. We kissed on our first date, and it was awkward and great. And then from then onwards, it just got stronger and stronger after that.
I like that you wrote him a letter. Because I just feel like it's like such a good way to express emotions. And you mentioned journaling when you're younger too. So it just seems like you have done a lot of self-reflection.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think I've found it. I've definitely found it has. So I had a lot of anxiety as a 16-year-old, probably because of everything going on here. It was very unsettling. And I suffered with great anxiety. And I went to a psychologist once or twice. And I think at the age of 16, that was just way too much for me. Having to deal with emotions. No, I didn't want to do that. You want to bury it. And at the age of 16, you're thinking your emotions are like, this boy has broken my heart. And you're like, he really hasn't. But, like you don't want to delve into that again. So, I started reading The Secret back in the day. And I loved their little affirmations, and I actually found, so I stopped going to the psychologist because I was like, no, that's not working for me. And I started reading The Secret, and I had these affirmations. I started writing these affirmations down that I felt were, and some of those being live each day as it comes, and so all in the while, I always wrote a diary at the end of every day. And I've still got all my diaries now. I've got like 6 up in even through all the travels and moving from home, and I've still got all my diaries because I was just an avid diary writer. And it always helped me process the day, and the affirmations, the combination with the affirmations, I was like, I can manage my anxiety this way. And that's how I kind of got through it. And then, you have kids, and then your kids start suffering with anxiety, and you think, oh gosh, like you try and get some help for them, but nothing seems to be working. And then you think, hang on, what did I do? I mean, I have anxiety. I had anxiety. Anxiety doesn't really go away, and everyone's touched by it to an extent. But, how did I deal with it? And I thought, oh gosh, remember The Secret. And I said, yeah, I remember that. Maybe I should go and get some, just re-engage with those whole affirmations. And I went into a bookstore and I said, do you have any books on Buddhism? And they said, oh, we've got this new book that's come in all the way in Zim. One of them, a brand new one, it's called Think Like a Monk. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll read that book. So I took it home, and I just loved it. I was reading it and reading it. And I was like, I love this guy. This guy's so cool. And then I Googled him, and then I started listening to his podcasts, and I thought, wow, this is exactly it's very much like The Secret, and it's helped me, and it's The Secret guided me then, and I think this is going to guide me now and just help me on my journey. And so yeah, that was about 2 years ago, and then ever since then I have really blossomed through self-development, and I've really found everything so interesting. And it's got me to where I am today. And I haven't started journaling yet because I'm too busy studying and and doing all of that. But I do plan, and I keep saying to myself, why did I stop? And I have been, with my coach currently as well. She was saying, why did you stop? And I thought, I don't know why I stopped. Just, I guess, time. And, time is not an excuse, because just stop watching movies on Netflix and write. But yeah, so I think it's an amazing way to help become self-aware of your feelings and your emotions, and also just not to bury everything, and just be very aware of what your state of mind is presently, and where you want to, and just keep a focus on I've got a plan, and this is where I want to be, and just keep feeling positive. And I think it's so important, because once you become self-aware, it's quite interesting how everything else just seems to fall in place, because you stop judging yourself so much and putting yourself under so much social pressure in terms of, I was always like, you've got to lose weight, you've got to be fit, you've got to be the best mom, you've got to also, you've also got to have a career, and you need to be all these things. But what I found is, I thought, no, Rome wasn't built in a day. And now 2 years on, I've lost, 15, 16 kgs, and I'm in a healthy space where I enjoy my exercise. Whereas before it was just go do exercise because you need to lose weight. Eat healthily because you need to lose weight. But now I'm like, I want to eat healthily, and I want, because it makes me feel better, and I want to exercise because I've created confidence and a safe space with people that are like-minded. And, I'm just in such a better space where I also not judging other people. It's funny how some of the most insecure people say, judge others because they to them look beautiful, and it's just not fair. Instead of getting to know these are all people, and everyone has stresses, and everyone has insecurities, and it doesn't matter how you look or how you act on the outside. Inside, we're all struggling a fight, and it's an internal one, and that there's so much, every one of us have something in common, regardless of who we are. So and it's funny, I always thought I'm not a judgmental person. But back then, I was judging everyone who I thought was better than me. I was judging them because I was thinking, oh, they're so beautiful, I wish I could be like them. I'm like, that's judging them. And it's putting yourself in a bad space. So now it's a really healthy relationship where I'm a lot more self-aware, and I'm just, I appreciate, before I appreciated everybody in their own, what I saw them to be visually on the exterior of being these great people. But now I can really appreciate that everyone internally and externally are beautiful, and
I
we're
love
all
that.
equal.
And everyone
And it's
has a
great. It's a
story,
great
and it's
space.
easy to project something onto them based on whatever state we may be
Yeah,
in. And the same thing goes for when we're being judged by other people. It's just a reflection of
exactly.
how they are feeling at the time
Hmm.
and like the state that they're in. I want to go back to a couple of things because you mentioned The
Yes.
Secret, which was a
Yeah.
huge impact on my life. I think I read it senior year of high school. The Law of Attraction, just the awareness that you can change your environment and the things that you attract with your emotional state. And it's so true. Like it's
Yes.
so true. And I feel like it's easy to spot when
Hmm.
you're in kind of a negative
Yeah.
spiral and everything's going wrong, and less easy to spot when you're really good and like you're bringing in good things. But
Mm. Mm.
so you
Yeah.
mentioned journaling and working out, and as two different almost like tools for self-discovery. And I think it's interesting
Yeah.
because I journal too,
Mm.
and I find myself journaling
100%.
more when I'm going through hard times, and I use it as a tool to detangle and to just like get that awareness. But when things start to get better, I drop off of it, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but Law of Attraction says like you can, like, once I get myself out of that hole,
Yes.
it's like I stop and I'm like, okay, I'm good now. But it's like, what makes us like stop there as opposed to keep going and like you get step further into the abundance and like that good mindset and energy? Like, what do you think that is that stops that?
Yeah. 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 I think that's I think it's judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I think on yourself, external environments, a lot of the time. You can be in this great space, but then when when your external environment is constantly presenting you with obstacles, then it's hard to get to that abundance, isn't it? You're constantly overcoming obstacles. I think I've lost you again, Courtney. Hello? Hello?
Hello. Okay, I'm back.
Hello.
Definitely having a learning curve with all of this and the
Well,
recording
that's,
aspect.
I know, yeah. I think it's very cool what you're doing.
Thank you. I enjoy the learning parts, but it's like it's like when we're live, I don't want it to be
I
everything going
know.
wrong. Okay, so I want to just jump right back into
Oh.
The Secret, the Law of Attraction, and the overcoming of obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
So we have both used journaling as a tool to overcome obstacles,
Yep.
and I've also used working out as a tool. I still do. I go for long walks as a
No,
way of
yeah.
almost like walking meditation and just to
Mm-hmm.
feel better in my body and feel better being mobile. It's like so good for your brain. How
Yep.
can you describe the way you've used these sort of self-development tools, and even think like a monk and some of the things we've learned from the coaching school for your self-development, and how, like, what sort of outcomes have you seen?
Yeah, so reading is a great one for me, which is really interesting because actually I lost reading for a long time because I was like, no, reading's not for me. It's really boring. And then I realized that I just didn't like fictional things. And when I picked up Think Like a Monk, I was like, because everyone always used to tease me. I've got one friend who reads amazingly, and she's always trying to give Tanya, try this book, try this book. I bet you'll read this book. And I just would read the same chapter over and over again because I'd forget. Because the last time I picked it up was 2 months ago. And so I was like, no, well, let's see. Let's see. I'm buying a book, but let's just see if I actually finish it. And I was like, wow, I actually read the book in like, I think it was a month, which for me is huge, given that I can read the same chapter of one book for a year, so over and over again. And so, yeah, I found that once I found self-development books, and specifically for me, I love Buddhist philosophies. I just think it's such a great way to live your life. And so, yeah, reading was self-development stuff, obviously, great. Podcasts I didn't really get into until I was researching Jay Shetty. And then, yeah, I really started to enjoy a few podcasts. Then sort of, obviously the course had kind of taken away, so I haven't really been podcasting much. And then also gym. So I was like, I'm not a gym person. But then I realized I just didn't like certain aspects of the gym. And I actually think it was 100% a confidence issue, which I think it is for a lot of people. And I was in denial, like I think a lot of people are as well, where I was like, no, gyms are for people who are obsessed with the way they look. And I'm not that person. You know, I'm comfortable in my own skin and I'm happy. And, you know, all those people are very scary looking and they all wear really fancy things. And no, not for me. So when I started reading these books, you know, I think a lot of them, they angle for challenging yourself and putting yourself out of your comfort zone. So I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put myself out of my comfort zone and I'm going to go, because also I wanted to get fit. I wanted to be on this better path, like all of these self-development books encourage. But I was like, I started with squash. So I thought, no, I love squash. I used to love squash in my past. And that was, you know, that was who I was then, without children and with plenty of time on my hands. And then I realized that squash requires obviously a partner that needs to be as committed as you. So, you know, and they have to be semi on your level. It's fine. It's obviously better for you if they're slightly better than you, but then, you know, you've got to balance the challenge for them. So I had a partner that I used to, back when we didn't have kids, we always used to play together. So I approached him. He's still here in Zim as well. And I said, let's do this. Let's get back into squash. He's like, great, me as well. Let's do it. But again, two parents, one's working, one's not, but very busy kids at school. So it was unreliable. So one I wouldn't go to, one he wouldn't. So I thought, no, this is not working. I cannot rely. Now I need to get to a point where I need to rely on myself. I have to be driven for my own reasons, and I need to do something that doesn't require anybody else's input. And I need to be able to do it without being motivated by other people's needs. I need to be motivated and self-driven. So I said, it's a gym, right. Tanya, you're going to have to join a gym. I was like, oh, no. And there was one around the corner. Now I love branding, and they've got a great brand. So I'm like, I love their brand. It's so great. I'm going to go check them out. Yeah. I'm terrified, but I'm going to go check them out. And I waltzed in and I thought, oh, gosh. So anyway, I registered and I thought I'll go up into this. I'll go and do something called ballet bar. I was like, I'm not a ballerina. What in the world is ballet bar? So I was like, this is terrible, Tanya. I was like, challenge yourself. It's fine. You'll be fine. So I said, you know what? It's okay. What I'm going to do, look, these people sell outfits that are like, you know, the gym outfits with their logo and stuff. Oh yeah, that's how I won't stand out. I'll buy their outfits. And then obviously I will feel like I belong and I'll feel okay and I can walk in and I can conquer the world. No, meanwhile, of course, I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, no one is going to be wearing all of the gym kit with branding all over it. They all still wearing Lululemon and and Nike. And I don't know what I was thinking. So now I definitely stand out. So I was like, well, this is one way to get over my fears, because I walked in and I promise you, everyone thought I was a staff member. No, Tanya. I was like, crawl into a hole right now and die. And I was like, no, you got this. Just carry on. And I just, you know, I did what I always do, and I made fun of myself, and everybody was hosing themselves. And afterwards, I went to a retail shop around the corner, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I love your guys' brand and logo. Maybe you can get me one." I was like, no, I'm not staff. Just like I'm actually, this is my gym kit anyway. And I promise you, then I always said, no, it's fine. If I like it, then I'll go out and I'll invest in those great brands and I'll go looking amazing. I still to this day walk in with that. I feel like this is who I am now. Like if I don't come in my kit, everyone's going to be like, Tanya, what happened? Who is this person? No. So, I obviously didn't. I eventually did get a few new stuff, but nothing out there. And I'm just someone who likes to not conform anyway, regardless. So it suits my personality. So, I did ballet bar, which wasn't hugely like ballet, which was a good thing. I was like, oh, it's exercise on a bar. I got it. That's okay. That's all right. So I loved it, and I loved the lady who took the class. And before I'd gone into this gym, I'd done CrossFit again with groups of friends, and again it was unreliable, and I didn't have the confidence to go. When they pulled out, I was like, no, I'm not going. They're not going. I'm not going. So again, same reason why I ended up at this gym. And I had a chat with the lady, our trainer, not personal trainer, but our trainer. And I said, I spent ages at CrossFit. And I said, I challenged myself, and I am so amazed at what my body can do. I never realized how much our body is physically capable of. And I said, and I've never worked harder in my life, but I haven't seen the results. And I did it for 3 months. And I said, I promise you, after every session, I almost died, but I haven't seen results. And she said something really interesting. She spoke about stress. And she said, if it's an exercise that you're not enjoying, the stress hormone immediately will come out. And for us, mostly as a woman, she said that affects our weight and our metabolism and everything inside of us. So if it's something, she says, CrossFit can suit many people, but if it's something you're not enjoying, you immediately go into the stress zone, and your body, it's not going to burn the calories or burn the energy that you are hoping to burn. And I said, well, that's interesting, because I said, I'm not a huge fan of cardio. So I joined her Pilates, her yoga, I joined her ballet bar. And I promise you, within 6 months, I saw amazing changes and found it absolutely crazy, because for me, it was exercise I enjoyed. And I thought you had to feel like you were dying in order to see results. And the fact that I was enjoying it and not feeling like I was dying, I was like, this is incredible. But it's also your mindset changes because you're enjoying something. You're with like-minded people because you found, which makes a huge difference as well. So you feel comfortable in the space because you obviously have something in common. You all coming here because you love ballet bar. So 100%, it's so important that you find something that suits you. Like, not everything is universal. Your body type is so different. You're never going to look the same. You're never going to feel the same. And everything is going to make you, every external element is going to make you feel different. And in some people, it'll make you feel positive, and in some, it'll make you feel negative. And I just realized that about myself during that journey, that sheesh, wow. And that's when I started to customize everything, where I was like, well, that's great. That's their journey, and it's working for them. And that's amazing. Look at the results. But look at my results. I'm so happy in myself, and just realize that I am not someone else. I'm me, and what works for them is never going to be the same formula for me. And it was such an inspiring thing, because that's when I started to realize that you do your journey on your own, and you develop that journey on your own, because that's the best way to be accountable and to see results.
Yes, that's great advice.
And
it's like, it has to happen internally first. Like, if you can't just force yourself into an external change, because the internal part really matters.
Absolutely. And you've got to be willing to put the work in, I think. And I'm not meaning in a physical, physical in terms of the gym and getting healthy that way, but mentally, it's a lot of work, because it's actually, when I think about this journey, it has been like a 3-year journey, 3 or 4 year journey. There was a very slow transition into it. And then it's probably actually been my life journey from the day I read The Secret. But, you know, when you're young and you're still understanding life and you're still presenting with so many obstacles, so many choices, so much responsibility, that it is a long journey. It is a life journey, but you can focus. And I think the last 2.5 years, I've really focused on me. And a lot of it, I've put myself in positions to fail. I've put myself in positions where I've accepted that failure, which a lot of people in Zim also don't like. Failure, it's not some. I mean, I'm sure it's in the whole world. To be honest, failure is something you shouldn't do. It's a negative thing. But because of being on this journey, I was like, I'm going to find what I'm passionate about, and I'm going to spend my time doing things that are valuable to me, because I am privileged enough to be able to do that, because unfortunately, it does take privilege to be able to discover yourself, because it takes time and it takes money and I mean that those levels can be as much as you want to put in, but time is the most privilege that you need to go on this self-awareness journey.
I
And you've got to
wholeheartedly
create that.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time and space for just yourself.
Mm,
And I think that's hard because I think society a lot of the times tells us like we can't afford to fail, and I think in
yeah.
a lot of people's minds and in a lot of people's realities, maybe they can't afford to fail. They can't afford to risk like their
Mm,
personal money on investment, or they can't afford to quit their job and move across the world and just
yeah.
not work for months on end. Like that's
Mm,
something, like to have the time just for myself is something that I've been really grateful for recently.
mm,
And
mm.
it did require having to like get rid of everything and leave everyone I know and everything, most of my material possessions behind. But
Wow.
it's been so valuable to be able to like, have the time and space on the other side.
Wow.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is wanting to be able to dedicate that time to self discovery and is maybe just afraid of the failure, afraid of taking that next step?
Yeah. So I know that so many platforms tell you, oh, you've got to fail to succeed. And I know that it can be repetitive and everyone's sort of sick of hearing that. But it is very true.
Mhm.
Like, I think um, putting yourself in challenging situations where you can fail as often as possible, so you can see that
Mhm.
you building that resilience and you're building the awareness where you're like, okay, well, maybe these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. Maybe I need to build on my weaknesses or outsource something for my weaknesses. Just say
Mhm.
that's not for me, and I'm going to continue to build on my strengths, or I really want to build on my weaknesses because I would rather get better at those because it's important to me and it's a priority.
Mhm.
So I think it's about definitely by creating time, looking like almost analyzing your day. Like do a
Mhm.
journal of what you do every day and how you spend that time, and then analyzing that time and saying, well, actually, what is useful and what is really not useful? Because we all scroll on our phones too much. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
Even those of us who are self-aware and do create time, there are moments where you open that and you go in for a purpose and you're lost. Within two
Yeah.
minutes, you're lost in some other world of someone else's. But
Yep.
you
I'm
don't
guilty of that.
realize. Yeah, absolutely. And you don't realize how much time you lose just doing mindless stuff. So create the
Mhm.
time, and then in that time, use it to do mindful things that are of value to you, that are important to you. And I think also in this course that we're doing, it's such an important thing where
Mhm.
you you recognize what is your priorities in life, what are your values in life, and do them first thing in the morning. It's such a clever thing. Put them in as soon as possible so that you can feel like you've accomplished something, because by the end of the day, you're exhausted and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
the last thing I need is to prioritize myself. So like definitely
Yeah.
finding the time to prioritize yourself in the morning, because by the end of the day, it's gone. It's
Right.
everyone else and every other thing you have to. But yeah, there were things that I was interested in. I basically wrote down those things that I was interested in, and I went and tried to do them. Let's just say, for instance, a career. So I was interested in going into a business with a friend. So I sat for years. I was thinking, what can we do? What can we do? We always talk about the fact that we wanted to go into business together. And we came up with a business plan and we thought, this is great and we'll run with it. So we spent a year researching, creating contacts, opened the business together. It was a beautiful brand. It was great. We were working well together. But I clicked that it wasn't really for me. And then that was part of my awareness journey where I said, I stopped and I said, look, I've invested all this time and energy. I've pushed my kids to the background because I'm trying to develop this business. And to the extent that they've lost so much time with me over the last year. And now we're about to launch everything. And is this how I want to spend my time? And I think I'd put myself into a situation now where I was like, no, actually, I would rather spend my time with my kids. And that means it's not of value to me. And I realized then that I had created this great brand and business that was really tallied towards my friend and not me, because I wasn't sure who I was. It was easier to find something tallied towards them. And it was now putting myself in a situation where now I had to let my friend down and say, this isn't for me and I want to pull out. And I think that was a really hard conversation to have. And I had it several times because obviously it's never easy. It's never like, sorry, not for me. You're great and I love you. Off you go. I'm fully behind you. Because obviously there's so many conversations that have to have between then. So it's putting yourself in that situation where you're like, okay, I might fail. And it's okay. And I'm going to learn from it when I do fail. So I learned a lot from it, from that failure, for instance. The business is still going. My friend had left her job because she was doing this while she was working. She'd always wanted to leave them, but never had the drive. And then it gave her the drive and that motivation to leave them. She's now got a much more balanced lifestyle. She's so much happier. She loves what she does, is creative, and she is so much happier for it. Although there was a period of difficultness because, I let her down, and I felt like I'd failed because I'd realized that I'd put all this effort and energy into this, a year of time and money, which now was a failure. But now, just to expose yourself to as much as you can that interests you and allow yourself to fail and realize it's okay. And I think if you just expose yourself in small amounts, because I hadn't put huge amounts of money in it. It was money and time that I could have lost, that it was okay. I did lose. So it's basically to take those small leaps towards things that scare you, that are not going to completely devastate you if you fail. So just small steps to a big action. And then along the way, if you see or you feel you failing, you haven't over invested, but you've done enough to realize that this isn't for you and you can move on, and you've learned from everything. You've learned how to deal with conflict. You've learned how to deal with failure, and you've learned more about what you want. And you're one step ahead of yourself, where now you know that actually that wasn't a value, that was someone else's value. And this is actually clearly what I value and prioritize most.
Right. And it's like sometimes what we get from the investment is the lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge.
So obviously
Huge.
I've connected with you from the Jay Shetty Coaching School.
Yes.
Have you had a life coach before, or what brought you into life coaching?
I haven't had a life coach before because actually here, it's not hugely known or about. To be honest, maybe even respected. I think we're a not very old-fashioned society. We're trying to move forward, but it's very traditional in its sense of everything, schooling, it's not hugely worldly. So I think life coaching is coming. There is the odd life coach here, but they're not considered to be respected. But yeah, I'm being coached by people in the Jay Shetty certification program, which is great. I find it amazing. But no, I haven't had a life coach. And I think when I got into this, I was still understanding what a life coach actually is. And now I'm fully aware. Not experienced, just aware.
Yeah. So I am curious what you envision for yourself with life coaching, and I guess in having maybe a business, or what the future holds for you.
So I'm so torn. And I think everyone probably gets to this where I'm still in that like self-discovery mode where do I use the coaching in a niche? So I think for me, coming from branding, I struggle, and marketing, I struggle to not imagine me in a niche. I feel like I have to have a niche, that I can't just be a general life coach. So at the moment, I'm dabbling with brand coaching, because I think I'm very passionate about brands. Just locally, I seem to retain them a lot. Like if someone mentions a brand, I would have, I didn't even go into a shop, but I would immediately, I will see it in front of my vision where I'm like, oh no, I know that one. What do they actually do? So, I think it is something that I've always been quite passionate about because I was in an industry which was very brand focused, which was, I was a Dior brand manager for a while, and then I was doing media for the LVMH Southern Sub-Saharan Africa agency here.
Cool.
So I think that had a lot to do with, and I loved it. It was really exciting and stressful, but yeah, I think it kind of made, and we traveled quite a lot. It was fun. It was a fun place to be. So I think there's a part of me that wants to utilize the experience and the skills I have with the coaching. So I'm venturing towards the brand coaching, but I'm also, again, that's the only problem I think with people who are very encouraging of self-discovery and self-awareness is that they're like, am I am I scared of being a life coach and I just want to go to my comfort zone? And am I just aware that I am actually aware and that I do want to do brand coaching? So, you're in that space. I'm in that space at the moment where I'm like, which is also why I haven't reached out to coach yet either. I have to do my hours and I haven't done it yet because I'm like, I need a niche. I need a brand. I need to go out. It needs to be perfect. I need to look amazing. Everything must be great.
Yeah. And I think the unsupervised coaching is a part of the niche discovery too, because you will get so many different people.
Yes, exactly. I know.
Interesting. Any final words of wisdom that you have that you've learned from just going through this life, living life?
I think spend your life doing things that make you happy, that challenge you, that the best thing in life for you is to love yourself and to get to know yourself, and that time with yourself is a priority, and it's important for everybody in your life that you have that time. So because it's what allows you to be you and to be present, and to be the best version of yourself and to be authentic and not to conform.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tanya. I appreciate
Thanks,
you, and I
Courtney.
appreciate the conversation.
You too.
Thank you for bearing with me with all the technical difficulties and like the learning. I feel like I'm gonna stick with this platform for now.
Yeah, it seems like a great platform. And yeah, you don't have to worry about all of that with me. I'm from Zim, where the hardest thing for me is just keeping a stable internet connection and power. And so you really, distraction, when they say no distractions, I'm like, that's literally nothing I can provide. It's out of my control.
Yeah. Awesome. You're a great sport, and I'll let you know when the episode goes live. I think it will probably be sometime in February.
Fun.
Okay.
Well, I wish
All
you
right.
all
Well,
the
have a
best on
great
your journey,
holiday.
Courtney. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.